Stop scrolling right now. We need to talk about the curvy adventurer who said, "Why choose between conquering mountains and conquering runways?" Then proceeded to literally break the internet by posting fashion shoots from the most dangerous locations on Earth, while looking so incredible that outdoor gear companies and luxury fashion brands got into bidding wars to work with her. This is Victoria, and if you think this is just another travel influencer story, you're about to discover the most insane tale of adventure meets high fashion that involves scaling cliffs in designer heels, surviving extreme weather in custom couture, creating viral moments that crashed websites, and building a following so obsessed with her fearless style that she accidentally started a whole new genre of adventure fashion that has everyone from National Geographic to Vogue trying to figure out how she did it. But here's the plot twist that will absolutely blow your mind. While traditional adventurers were gatekeeping outdoor spaces and fashion influencers were playing it safe with studio shoots, Victoria was out here proving that curves, couture, and cliff jumping make the most powerful combination the internet has ever seen. And the craziest part? She did this all while dealing with adventure bros who said she didn't belong in extreme sports, fashion elitists who said outdoor gear wasn't stylish enough for real fashion content, and social media algorithms that had no idea how to categorize someone who is equally likely to post a selfie from Mount Everest Base Camp or Paris Fashion Week, sometimes on the same day. We're talking about someone who took two completely different worlds, extreme adventure and high fashion, and smashed them together so brilliantly that she created an entirely new category of influence that has millions of people questioning why they ever thought they had to choose between living dangerously and looking fabulous. Here's where Victoria's story gets absolutely wild, and I'm talking about the kind of cultural collision that happens when someone refuses to accept that adventure and fashion are supposed to be separate worlds instead of complementary forces that create the most compelling content the internet has ever witnessed. The outdoor adventure scene that Victoria entered was dominated by technical gear obsessives who treated fashion as frivolous distraction from serious outdoor pursuits. Meanwhile, the fashion world considered outdoor adventures as dirty, dangerous obstacles to maintaining the polished aesthetics that drove luxury brand partnerships and high-end collaborations. Victoria looked at this artificial separation and said, "This is absolutely ridiculous." She understood that her audience didn't want to choose between inspiration for living boldly and inspiration for looking incredible. They wanted both, and they wanted to see someone who proved these desires could coexist beautifully. But here's what made her approach revolutionary. She didn't just throw on designer clothes for mountain photos. She researched, planned, and executed fashion shoots that were genuinely challenging adventures requiring real outdoor skills, physical fitness, and mental toughness while maintaining the kind of style standards that would impress fashion critics. Before we dive deeper into this incredible story, make sure you smash that subscribe button and hit the notification bell because we're constantly bringing you these amazing stories of women who are breaking boundaries and redefining what's possible. Don't miss out on these inspiring tales. Subscribe right now and join our community of people who celebrate fearless individuals changing the world. The results of Victoria's approach were immediate and undeniable. Her adventure fashion content generated engagement rates that made traditional outdoor influencers and fashion bloggers equally jealous. She was creating content so unique that both industries had to pay attention whether they wanted to or not. Her impact on both communities was transformative and lasting. Adventure enthusiasts began caring more about how they looked during their expeditions. Fashion lovers started planning actual adventures instead of just dreaming about exotic locations for photo opportunities. Now let me tell you about the specific adventures that made Victoria legendary, and I'm talking about expeditions so outrageous that even extreme sports athletes were questioning whether she was completely insane or absolutely brilliant for attempting high fashion photography in these locations. The Himalayan haute couture shoot. Victoria literally hiked to Everest Base Camp wearing a custom designer gown that cost more than most people's cars, all while documenting the entire journey for her followers. The logistics alone were insane. Coordinating with Sherpa guides who had never dealt with fashion photography, protecting expensive designer pieces from extreme weather, and maintaining perfect hair and makeup at altitudes that make most people sick. The photos from this expedition broke the internet completely. Fashion magazines couldn't believe someone had successfully executed high fashion photography at such extreme conditions. Adventure publications couldn't ignore the technical skill required to complete such a challenging trek while managing additional photography equipment and wardrobe considerations. Deep sea fashion diving. Victoria took underwater photography to completely new levels by doing full fashion shoots while scuba diving in some of the world's most dangerous waters. We're talking about coordinating waterproof designer outfits, managing underwater lighting for perfect photos, and executing complex diving maneuvers while maintaining fashion model poses and expressions. The technical challenges were absolutely mind-blowing. Waterproofing high-end fashion pieces without damaging delicate fabrics. Coordinating with marine photographers who had never worked with fashion models. Managing buoyancy control while posing for complex shots. The woman turned underwater exploration into underwater runway shows. Arctic Glamour Expedition. Victoria organized a fashion shoot in the Arctic Circle during winter conditions that were so extreme that professional Arctic explorers thought she was attempting suicide for social media content. She survived temperatures that would kill most people while executing fashion photography that looked like it belonged in luxury magazines. The survival aspects were genuinely life-threatening. Preventing designer clothes from freezing solid. Maintaining camera equipment functionality in sub-zero conditions. Managing frostbite risks while exposing skin for fashion shots. She proved that with proper planning and genuine outdoor skills, even the most extreme environments could become fashion photography locations. Volcano Runway Show. This was perhaps her most insane expedition. Victoria organized an actual fashion show on the rim of an active volcano. The heat, toxic gases, and genuine danger of volcanic activity made this adventure so extreme that volcanologists were questioning her sanity, while fashion experts were questioning whether this was even possible. The execution required coordination with geological experts, safety specialists, and fashion teams who had never worked in such dangerous conditions. The resulting content was so unique and visually stunning that it generated millions of views and established Victoria as someone willing to risk everything for truly unprecedented content creation. The fashion industry's reaction to Victoria's adventure content was absolutely legendary, and I'm talking about the kind of industry upheaval that happens when someone completely destroys every assumption about what fashion content is supposed to look like and where it's supposed to be created. Traditional fashion editors were initially furious because Victoria's content made their studio shoots look boring and uninspired by comparison. Fashion photographers who had built careers on controlled lighting and perfect conditions suddenly found themselves competing with someone who could create magazine-worthy images while hanging from cliff faces or swimming with sharks. But here's where the story gets even more incredible. Instead of dismissing her work, major fashion houses started studying Victoria's approach and trying to figure out how to incorporate adventure elements into their own campaigns. Luxury brands realized that Victoria's audience engagement rates proved that people were hungry for fashion content that showed clothes being worn in real, exciting situations rather than sterile studio environments. The collaboration offers started pouring in from directions Victoria never expected. Outdoor gear companies wanted her to make their technical equipment look fashionable. Luxury fashion brands wanted her to prove their designs could survive extreme conditions. Adventure travel companies wanted her to demonstrate that their destinations were compatible with high fashion photography. Her influence on fashion marketing became undeniable when major brands started sending their own models and photographers to extreme locations for adventure fashion shoots. The problem was that their models lacked Victoria's genuine outdoor skills and physical fitness, so their attempts looked fake and manufactured compared to Victoria's authentic adventure expertise. The fashion media couldn't ignore Victoria's impact when her adventure fashion content consistently outperformed traditional fashion campaigns in terms of audience engagement, social media shares, and brand recognition. Fashion magazines started featuring adventure fashion as a legitimate category rather than just novelty content. Her approach forced the entire fashion industry to reconsider their assumptions about what makes compelling fashion content. Victoria proved that audiences don't just want to see beautiful clothes. They want to see beautiful clothes being worn by someone living an exciting, adventurous life that inspires them to pursue their own bold experiences. The economic impact was substantial and measurable. Brands working with Victoria saw increased sales, broader audience reach, and stronger brand association with adventure and authenticity rather than just luxury and exclusivity. Here's where Victoria's impact becomes truly revolutionary. She didn't just succeed within existing adventure or fashion frameworks. She completely shattered every boundary between industries, body standards, and lifestyle categories that had never been successfully combined before her fearless approach to content creation. Adventure, sports, gender expectations. The outdoor adventure community had deeply embedded assumptions about who belonged in extreme sports and what they were supposed to look like while participating. Victoria's curves and fashion focus initially made traditional adventurers dismiss her as a social media poser rather than a legitimate outdoor athlete. Her response was perfect. She let her actual adventure skills do the talking. When she completed expeditions that challenged experienced adventurers while looking incredible the entire time, the outdoor community had to acknowledge her legitimate expertise regardless of their initial prejudices. Fashion industry body standards. The fashion world maintained narrow beauty standards that excluded curvy bodies from high fashion representation, especially in extreme or challenging contexts that might emphasize physical capabilities over conventional beauty ideals. Victoria obliterated these standards by proving that curves could enhance rather than limit both adventure performance and fashion presentation. Her body confidence in extreme situations created more compelling content than traditional model aesthetics could achieve in safe, controlled environments. Lifestyle category limitations. Social media algorithms and audience expectations were designed around single-category content creators. Adventure influencers stayed in their lane. Fashion influencers stayed in theirs. Nobody successfully combined dramatically different lifestyle categories without confusing audiences or diluting their brand message. Victoria proved that audiences actually prefer multi-dimensional content creators who can provide inspiration across different aspects of living boldly. Her followers didn't want to choose between adventure inspiration and fashion inspiration. They wanted both from someone who authentically embodied both lifestyles. The systematic destruction of these boundaries created opportunities for countless other creators who had been limiting themselves to single categories rather than embracing their complete range of interests and capabilities. Victoria's influence extends far beyond individual success into fundamental transformation of how global adventure and fashion communities think about body diversity, lifestyle integration, and authentic multidimensional living that serves rather than limits personal expression and achievement. Her impact on international adventure tourism has been measurable and positive. Destinations featured in Victoria's content experienced increased visitor interest from people who had never considered themselves adventurous enough for extreme travel but were inspired by her approachable yet challenging expedition documentation. The fashion industry globally has had to expand their understanding of what fashion content can achieve and where it can be created. Victoria's success opened doors for location-based fashion campaigns that never would have been considered before her boundary-breaking work proved their commercial viability. Her influence on body positivity in extreme sports has been transformative for participation rates among people who had previously felt excluded from adventure communities. Victoria's success proved that adventure sports benefit from body diversity rather than being limited by narrow physical standards. Victoria didn't just become a successful adventure fashionista. She proved that the most powerful content comes from refusing to limit yourself to single categories and instead embracing every aspect of who you are boldly and authentically. Hit that subscribe button if this story proved that breaking boundaries creates more compelling content than following safe, predictable patterns. Victoria showed us that adventure and fashion aren't opposites. They're the perfect combination for living and creating fearlessly.